Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. I'm your host, Reginald D. On today's episode, I have Quenton Stroud, aka Reverend Q. Quenton is a certified minister and life coach with Awakening Light International, a spiritual advisor, a celebrity psychic known as the Master Oracle. Welcome to the show, Quenton.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, man. You know, our time zones are crazy and we was trying to connect, but thank you for being up, up at 6 o'clock in the morning because it's 6 p.m. here.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. So, Quentin, tell us about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Okay. Well, originally born and raised in Opelika, Alabama. So I'm from Alabama. And growing up, it was basically, in a very religiously conservative household, raised Jehovah's Witness. And for me, I started kind of coming into my gifting around the age of 8. And my great grandmother was the first one that kind of noticed it. And so she would have me sit at her feet and sing her songs and like do little prayers over me and stuff like that as a child. And one day she reached down and she cut open some fruit and put it on a little paper plate on the floor. And she said, "Tell me what you see." And I told her, "I see some fruit, apple, da da da, whatever was on the plate." And she said, "No, tell me what you see. Like, look, tell me what you see." And immediately stuff started just coming through. Like I started being able to perceive or whatever. But growing up, for me, it was being a very quiet, conservative Jehovah's Witness, trying to do my best to knock some doors down, and you know how it is.
Yep, absolutely. So, Quentin, you guided over 11,000 people through transformation over the past 24 years. What sparked your journey into becoming a spiritual advisor and a celebrity psychic? Can you walk us through one of your sessions?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, well, again, starting around 8 years old, this is when it started to open up. But it wasn't until about 18, 19, I moved up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was actually gifted a free reading with a little psychic thing at a psychic fair. It was like a little bookstore, like a little bookstore. And so we go in and we're just looking around, and then my friend was like, "Oh, you should do it. You should do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And this woman read me down. And she basically just opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that had been going on when I was younger, a lot of stuff that I knew was out of the ordinary, and I can go into some details a little bit later, but a lot of things I knew was out of the ordinary, but she kind of put like a big, bow on the whole package of what was going on. And at the end of it, she says, "You're very powerful, but you have to decide how you want to use this power, how you want to use it." After that, a friend of mine bought me a tarot deck, and the rest is history. I started doing readings while working at a call center. I was working at a call center, and on my lunch break, people would come up to my little cubicle. They'd be like, "Hey, can I talk to you on your lunch break? Can I get a reading on your lunch break?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I got you, I got you." You know, and that's how I started doing readings, working at a call center on my lunch break in the break room.
Wow.
Uh, as far as session goes, so basically, I help people to understand their astrology, their numerology, and we go into tarot to kind of give some more guidance and insight. What I tell people is that when you're looking at astrology, it's like the highway. Okay, whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams, whatever you're trying to get to, whatever you're trying to achieve, astrology is like the highway to get you there. Tarot is like the side ramp. So you go off the side roads and you go, turn left here, turn right here. That's how tarot kind of helps you to move through life. And then with numerology, it's more like your frequency. It's what are you vibrating with? How are you operating and vibrating in this life, in this dispensation, so that you can kind of understand how things are supposed to attract to you and things that you're supposed to stay away from. And that's what numerology does for you. And so I help people with astrology, numerology, and tarot in order to give them that kind of insight and perhaps foresight into their life.
Man, I like that. I like that a lot. Man, people coming to you after work out on the lunch break, man, trying to get a read, trying to figure out what to do with life. That's awesome. You knew you
Yeah,
was on to something.
and it was good for me because I was making like maybe back in the day it was like $12 an hour or something like that. I was like making $12 an hour, and I'll be like, yeah, I got you in the break room, and they'll give me like $10, something like that, just to for my blessing. But yeah, that's basically how it started, and that was 25 years ago.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
man. Wow. So, Quentin, your sessions, like Love Spark, monetary, and Phoenix rising blend intuition, spiritual insight, and life strategy. Could you pick one and walk us through its core purpose and how it brings clarity?
Thank you. I would say the best one to talk about, and I think more people gravitate towards, is the Love Spark session. The Love Spark session is basically an opportunity to kind of look at your love synastry. If you're currently married or in a relationship, the Love Spark is a good way to kind of get insight into what's going on. Are we soulmates? Are we twin flames? Are we karmic partnerships? How that whole thing works. And just diving into if I'm on my right path when it comes to love and relationship. If you're single and looking, who am I looking for? I mean, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Where am I supposed to go and how this whole thing works? And so, since I've been doing this, I've personally married, like performed the ceremonies for four couples. I personally married four couples, and it's just been a wild ride. And so with the Love Spark session, you really get to know yourself. You get to know who you're supposed to be with, what that's supposed to look like, how that's supposed to go. And if you need any relationship repair, you would do that during the Love Spark session as well. So you'll get that relationship repair. You'll get to, go into like, okay, what do we need to do to improve our condition as partners? And that's a really good way to go in, and it's not, psychobabble. It's actually looking at the spirit of the thing versus, just, the surface.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because I think people just get out here and just start dating and they be dating it for years and years and years and don't ever find the right one. And then they look at themselves and say, something must be wrong with me. No, no, it's not wrong with you. You got to figure out what you want, what you're looking for.
For sure. And then, almost 62% of all couples now are found on the internet. So 62% of all couples now are found on the internet, according to recent studies. And so if that's true, then 62% of our connections are being made like we talking right now, right? And so that is a good way to meet people. Don't get me wrong. I'm a very big proponent of online dating, but who are you connecting with? You don't know nothing besides what that person send you on a text message or what that person tells you on a telephone call. And then when you get with them, we already know you're going to wear your best mask, right? We all wear our masks, metaphorically speaking. And so you're going to wear that mask until the mask is revealed. And then once the mask is revealed, it's like, dang, I've been in this for 6 months. Now I got to see it through, you know? And so, yeah, I just think it's a better way to know and to connect and to understand who you're dealing with. And I believe that there's a way to do that. Understanding astrology, understanding the numerology, understanding their tarot, and understanding how that all merges together for you to have something that's hopefully seamless.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me dive into this. As a trusted celebrity psychic, what was one memorable moment you've had guiding a high profile client? You can keep them anonymous
Ooh.
too. You got to tell the name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, I would probably say the best moments I have with some of my celebrity psychics is celebrity clients is dealing with them from a place of they're real people. And when I'm working with them, like you have no idea what these people are feeling, what they're going through. And I'm talking about in their own personal journey, but also what's coming at them. And so to not go into too much detail because it might be a little bit revealing, but I'll say that when whether it's actors, whether it's singers and artists, whether it's people who are producers and doing big things in Hollywood, it is understandable that once they're off camera or once they're off stage, these people have real lives, and it is stuff that you would never imagine. But being able to talk people down from, being in the middle of an argument with their partner or their spouse and having to literally go into their home and sit with them and talk with them. One of my clients was pregnant at the time, and she was having to deal with all that with being pregnant while her husband was, they had one child already, and while her husband was trying to take care of the child, take care of all the bills at home and stuff, she totally felt disconnected from the rest of the family. And sometimes, of course, going through pregnancy, that could be so. So they were like, "You got to come here. You got to come and fix this because I'm about to blow it up." And so I come over, and literally they put me in the guest bedroom, and I then go into the living room with them during our session, and I'm sitting talking to them, and it wasn't so much my celebrity client, but it was her husband. It was her husband that after going through session with me, and I had him get up on the chair, and he was on his fingertips. I said, "So do me a favor, sit in the chair, but try to sit in the chair." And he was like, "I don't understand." And I said, "Use your fingertips, and I want you to sit in the chair, on your fingers." Now he's in the military, so he's like this, dude, right? And so he's sitting in the chair on his fingers, and he's like this, and he starts shaking. I said, "This is how your wife feels every minute of every day. That she can't rest and rely and trust in you in this moment. Now, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's true or not, this is how she feels." And this military man broke down crying, and he fell to his knees, and he wrapped his arms around his wife, and it was probably the most, just to kind of see that and to experience that in the room with them while this man is sobbing in her arms and with his arms around her waist. And that was probably the most memorable moment with one of my high profile clients that I recall. It was really powerful.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So let's talk about this because I know how a lot of people feel about certain things. But what's the one misconception people have about spiritual advisors? Now, when I say this, I grew up in the church, and been to multiple churches, connected with multiple people, and man, people got gifts, man. They got the gifts
Yeah.
of the seer, they got the gifts of being prophecy. They go speak something, and it'll come right to your life. So,
Right.
what is one of the misconceptions people have about spiritual advisors, and how do you dispel it through your work?
Yeah. I would first of all say that there's different rankings. There's different rankings of spiritual gifts. There's different, I think scripture says there are many administrations, but the same spirit, many operations, but the same Lord, many manifestations, but the same God that worketh all in all, right? And the manifestation of the Holy Spirit is given to every man to profit with. And so what I say is that people need to understand that there's different it ain't all the same. Okay, it ain't all the same. And so whether you're talking to street fortune teller, and I'm using these words specifically, whether you're talking to a street fortune teller, whether you're at church and you're dealing with, or you're on the road and dealing with a psychic, going to like a psychic shop, the little psychic shops with the little, crystal balls and stuff, whatever. A psychic, whether you're at your church and you're dealing with a prophet, or whether you're talking to somebody like myself who is an oracle of God, depending on who you're talking to, where you're dealing with, there's many administrations, but the same spirit, many operations, but the same Lord, right? And so what happens is that when a person thinks that they're out here all by themselves, you know, and you're trying to figure all this out all by yourself, and you're afraid to call somebody, you're afraid to talk to somebody, you're afraid to connect with somebody who has a gift, has insight, has foresight, has prophetic word, has an ability, right, to hear not more clearly than you, because I want you to understand that we all have the ability to hear from God directly. But the problem is that I'm not in your stuff like you in your stuff. You feel me? And so when you go to a prophet, when you go to an oracle, you're going to somebody who is so exterior to your situation that they can see from a God's eye view. They're seeing it the way God sees this thing, you see. And so the benefit of talking to somebody like an oracle is to say, okay, I need to see this thing from a different perspective. I had one lady come to me, and we go through a session like 45 minutes into a reading, and she's like, "Oracle, I didn't call you for education. I ain't need you to teach me. I ain't call you for no education." And I said, "Well, what'd you call me for?" I said, "What did you call me for?" I said, "I can't do nothing but pull out of you what's in you." That's what educate means. To educare, it means to draw forth. I can't pull out of you except what's in you. I said, "I'm letting you know what this is so that you can understand." Scripture says, "In all thy getting, get understanding." And so I would just say it's not all the same, number one. And scripture says you try the spirit by the spirit. And so when you connecting with somebody, you got to use your own spiritual discernment. You got to understand who this person is and who you're connecting with. But the gift come without repentance. The gifts is who you are. It's who God made you to be. And it's how you use that gift that I think is so important. And so that's the one misconception that I think I would help people to understand, that it's not all the same, and you have to understand and use your own discernment when you're connecting with somebody. And if you're a Christian, connect with somebody who understands your Christian principles and Christian values, who understands that Christ is Lord, who understands that this is something that's important to you to know and to hold, so that when they're guiding you from that principle. They're guiding you from that spirit. So I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I really liked the way you broke that down.
Oh, and one more thing, and to remember that the apostles used to use divination and spiritual abilities in order to get answers as well. A lot of people don't read their Bible, Reg. A lot of people don't read their Bible. If you recall in scripture, after Judas betrayed Jesus, you remember in the scripture, right? The story, Judas betrayed Jesus with the kiss and all that stuff like this. After Judas betrayed Jesus, they went back down to 11 apostles. And per Jesus' instructions, it was two by two, and they had to have 12, if you remember. Well, if you go to the book of Acts, they had to find the next 12th apostle to replace to replace Judas. And they casted lots. They casted lots. They got the and they had to cast the lots, and using the Urim and the Thummim, which is some divination tools, in order to determine who was going to be the next apostle, and it was Matthias. And so I want you to realize that this is not something that's spooky woo woo. This is something that's ancient. This is something that, if a person understands who you are, that's the most important thing. Who are you in connection with this guidance? Who are you in connection with this reading? Who are you in connection with spirit? And that's the way you should want somebody to help you through life.
Yeah, exactly. So, Quentin, your clients say they leave your sessions with more peace, certainty, and a plan. What's the internal shift you aim to spark in those one-on-one moments?
That's a good question. I would say, first and foremost, I tell people that I'm a practical spiritual seer, right? Practical spiritual. And what that means is that while, there's so much in spirit and God is so good and so vast, that trying to pull it all down and give you some guidance, it could sometimes be big for some people to handle, right? Just a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of stuff. But as a practical spiritual seer, for me, I bring the practical in. So you're going to leave a session with me with a plan. You're going to leave a session with me with actionable steps. I tell people to take notes. People come out with 3, 4, 5 pages of notes, because I want you to really get what God has for you and using that to give you some guidance through your life. And we don't have to talk as often as you need to, but when you come back and if you put in practice the things that were given in spirit, you're able to use that for your life. So I would say the shift that I go for is to, number one, help you to understand who you are in God. That's probably the most important insight, if you will, that anybody can get. Who am I in all this? Like, and when we start to fall away from that is when we move into what's called suffering, right? We're going to experience pain because that heartbreak or loss of a loved one, just whatever. We're going to experience pains in life, but suffering happens when you lose who you are in that. You fall off of who you really are, and that's when a person moves into suffering. That's what sin is, by the way, to miss the mark of who you really are. And so you start to fall into that sin, that suffering, that falling away from who you are. And that's what I want to try to get people to get back into who you are. And so you're not suffering anymore, even if you're still healing through a pain or through a loss or through something that you're going through. You don't have to suffer in it.
Absolutely. You got to put everything in perspective in life, and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to be able to grab it all and help it make sense.
Yeah.
So you've hosted retreats like manifestation journeys in Thailand. How did those experiences like that deepen one's connection to purpose?
Now that's the good part, right? Because when we're talking like this, obviously, I'm in Malaysia and you're in America. When we're talking like this, it is definitely a transference of spirit that you can definitely feel the endowment of that. But when you're in a retreat, when you're connected and you're going through these exercises and you're going through these concepts and principles with each other, when you're there in community, how can two walk together unless they be in agreement? You're there in community and you're using that collective space to kind of start to make things happen for yourself. It's really good. When we did the last Thailand retreat last February, two really, really massive shifts happened for people. One of them was an exercise that we were doing about using your power of command, the power of command, the power of your voice, the power of command. And I was having them do this particular exercise, and you could hear you could hear the power raise in people's communication. You could hear the strength of their voice come up, and they find it. When you find your voice and you can speak to the winds, you can speak to the dry bones, you can speak to the thing. There's a power in that. You understand? And so what ends up happening is that in these kinds of settings where you get to actually now practice what is being preached, so to speak, you get to use it and you could just hear. I had this one lady, 67 years old, and she was 66, and she was able to use her voice. And I had to work with her because we had to go into a private room and work together on it. But you could then hear it come up, and she was able to, woof, and it was almost like a force wave. And she wasn't yelling, she wasn't it wasn't nothing like that. It was just like, do this, do it, and you could hear the power of command. It was like a woof. And that was probably one of the most life changing. I was like, yes, you got it, girl. And she's 66 years old. She's like, I found it. I found it. Yes. So yeah, stuff like that is really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome when somebody finally get to that place, man, and she's excited, you're excited for coaching them through it and things like that. So it all works out. It all works.
Yes.
It all works out. So you wrote a book, the Book of the Oracle, a book
Mhm.
of spiritual insights. How does your written work complement your in-person or virtual sessions?
Yeah. So the Book of the Oracle is a book I wrote back in 2011, some time ago. And it is literally a book of spiritual insights where a person can use the book as a divination tool, as a tool to help them get insight and foresight. And so, literally, whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling, you can use the book, you can open up to it, and the messages that come through is really good to be able to have. If you can think about like Chicken Soup for the Soul, books like that, that was some really powerful works. But the book and books help people to understand, number one, the gift, and to also use it in the immediate kind of way, right? So I would say, like I said it before, and all thy getting get understanding. But once you know how to use it and know how to work with these messages, right? And what Spirit is offering you, you can start to see them everywhere. You hear them in the song, you hear them on a commercial, you see it on a billboard. I was driving not too long ago and saw in the back of somebody's car a message on the little bumper sticker thing. Little messages like that that constantly come through. And if they come through at the right time and you're aware of them, you could use them right away. And like, yes, I needed that. That's for me. I used to do something that when I see something I want, I used to do pop. I say pop, pop. Pop stands for producing on purpose. Producing on purpose. And so I see something I want, I say pop. That's for me. That's for me. I'm gonna produce that on purpose.
Yeah, because the crazy part about it, I'm over 200 episodes on the podcast,
Mm,
and I do it every week, for the most part, until I put in guests here and there.
yeah.
But people ask me sometimes, how do you keep coming up with this stuff? I said, man, I could just be like walking to the grocery store and there'll be a song playing it through the store and there's something to jump out.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some guy talking to somebody on the phone in the grocery store and I don't really know what they was talking about, but he said a word and it jumped out. And I said, I got to do a podcast about that. I got to
That's
do something
right.
about that. It just, it just grabs you. It's crazy, but it just grabs you like that.
Yeah, you tapped in. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Quentin, how do you balance spiritual gifts with personal integrity in a world that often misunderstands spiritual advisors' work?
Spiritual gifts and personal integrity. To that, I would say it. There's a level of authenticity that I think is required to do what we do in this sense. Like when you're speaking to people, when you're motivating them, when you're counseling them, when you're guiding them, when you're marrying them, premarital counseling and stuff like that, I think there's a level of authenticity. One of my old spiritual teachers, Pastor Sam, Pastor Sam told me a long time ago, he said, don't practice what you preach what you practice. And he said, what that does is that that keeps you able to speak about anything because you're doing it from your own practice, your own personal experience. You're doing it from your own journey. But he said it also keeps you authentic because now you're not trying to, find the right words or say the right thing to a person to help them or whatever, whatever. You're just speaking from truth. You know what I mean? And I think that that's probably more cleansing and cathartic and healing than anything, just being honest and being true with people. So I think personal integrity is super important in that knowing right from wrong, understanding, who you are and all this, and just being able to preach what you practice. Like, this is how I live. I'm not making this stuff up or read this in a book, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So one of your clients, they use the phrase "wake up call guy." What does that mean to
Okay.
you?
Um, whew. S- So, like I said before, I'm a practical spiritual, right? And so, as somebody who's practical spiritual, it's not just going to be that, I feel so good in my soul. I feel so good in my soul. It's not going to be that. As a practical spiritual seer, I'm going to give you that, I'm going to give you that wake up call. I'm going to give you that, like, listen, you got to stop this. We got to fix this. We got to change this. We got to shift this, whatever it is, right? Like, it's that wake up call that I think is really important because get it this way. Most of us go through life and we are on automatic, right? We get up, go to work, we do this, we do that, we take care of our family, we brush our teeth, we do all, and we're doing a lot of stuff on automatic. And we do the same thing in relationships because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. We do the same thing in our careers and stuff. I was working with a guy who was trying to get a job. He had gotten released from another position and he had been trying almost 2 years, a year and like 8 months. He had been trying 9 months. And he was like, something's got to give. So he came to me, found me on Facebook. He came to me and did a session. And I said to him, can you send me your resume? Because I want to see the resume. So he sent me the resume, and the resume was professionally done. It was a good resume. And he's like, I don't understand why nobody's pulling me on. So after taking a look at the resume, I saw, for lack of a better word, the energy of it. I saw the energy of the resume. And I did some prayer over it. I did some work with it. And I was like, okay, go ahead and apply to 19 jobs, and you're going to find a job after this one. So again, spiritual side and then the practical side, right? Faith without works is dead. And so he went in and applied for those jobs. And after about 14 jobs, he got a call. And he got a job making $126,000 a year, which he had never made before. Never had he made that much money before. And he got this job. And after a year and 9 months of trying to apply, he had finally found something. And that's the kind of stuff that I think that I want people to wake up. And I want you to realize your resume is just something you're resuming. You're resuming your experience. You're resuming your status quo. I want to help you get to better faster. That's my job as an oracle. My job is to help you to get to better faster. And so if I can help facilitate that process, I do.
Yeah, because one thing, I like the way you put it, like, the faith that works is dead part, because I went to churches, I've spoken at churches and things like that as a speaker. And one thing that really stuck with me growing up in church, I was like, man, if people come to church, man, they shout and run up and down the church and blah, 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 hallelujah and all that kind of stuff,
Real
which is good,
spiritual.
get your praise on, but you walk right back out that door and then you lose a life. And I was like, something's wrong with this. you
Right.
know, it's something you're not putting in practical
Right.
outside of the church to make your life better. I don't
There
think
you
you're
go.
supposed to be struggling and going through all these stuff all your life and things like that. And I think it's more than that. And then like
Yeah,
just get caught up in the spiritual part and don't worry about the practical, the life lessons and the things you have to do to make things happen.
for
So
sure. Well, and I tell people that it's those, I believe that the spiritual moments they help to establish you, right? The spiritual moments help to give you peace. They help to establish you. They help to give you an easier road ahead if you stay in spirit. The practical side gives you the know-how. It gives you the protection, if you will. It gives you the way to use discernment and go through things in a way that you don't have to go into it with ignorance. You know, you don't have to go into things with ignorance. It's one thing to pray for a financial blessing. Lord, Lord, I believe, help me God, I believe. But it's another thing to go out and then learn about financial education. And now I know what to look for. I know how to make certain moves in the market or moves in the business world. I know how to manage my finances differently. That's practical, right? The spiritual side gives you peace that surpasses all understanding. And that helps you deal with it and get through it without the anxiety and the angst and the worry. But you still got to know what you're doing. What is that? What's that saying? God helps children and fools. And that the
Yeah. Yeah.
God helps children and fools. Listen, I ain't a child no more, and I damn sure don't want to be a fool. So how we gonna fix that? And so you then start to move into a place of self mastery. You see, this is what Jesus helps us to appreciate. You get to a place of self mastery, and you don't get the same grace as a fool do when you're in mastery.
Right.
People don't get it. Like, so, listen, grace is sufficient, but it can run out. And his grace is sufficient, but it can run out. And what happens is that if you stay in fool space, you're going to keep handling and dealing with things that fools have to deal with, right? But when you move into mastery, the grace may be shifted because now you are master. When you have a child, you give them grace when tying their shoe. But after a certain age, you be like, tie your shoe up. Why your shoe untied like that? Look at you gonna fall, you gonna trip. They don't get too much grace no more.
Right. Exactly. So,
Mm.
Quentin, when people look back at your life's work and all the years you've been doing this, what do you hope they'll say about the impact you made on individuals, celebrities, and communities?
Thank you. I literally just talked about this in another mastermind group that I'm a part of. And I said that I had a statement that I used to make. My prosperity prospers 10,000 people, and their prosperity prospers me. And I used to say that all the time back in 2006, 2007. My prosperity prospers 10,000 people, and their prosperity prospers me. Well, now that I'm 11,000, I'm at 11,000 clients and more plus. My prosperity prospers 1 million people, and their prosperity prospers me. So I'm shooting for working with 1 million people on planet Earth to make that shift and help them in any way I can get to their better faster. And so, yeah, my prosperity prospers 1 million people, and their prosperity prospers me.
Wow. I really love that. Well, I got a last note here, but before I do that, I'm trying to figure out Alabama, right? Malaysia. Look,
How does
I'm
that
from
happen?
South Carolina, man. I'm from the South too. I'm from South Carolina. I'm like, I don't know how you,
Yeah.
so how
How
you
did I
end
make
up?
that? Yeah, how did I make that shift? So I'll say this. My mother raised me. We used to go on little summer vacation trips, during school and stuff like that. And then with my son, when my son turned 13, I told him no more Christmas gifts. At 13, I said, no more Christmas gift. Instead of Christmas gifts, you get Christmas trips. And so for me, travel and seeing different parts of the world and seeing different cultures and seeing different people, that was always ingrained in me and that was always really important to me. And so for me, kind of going in that place of like going into different parts of the world and stuff, it opens your eyes to how other people are living, maybe how other people are struggling, maybe what other people are dealing with day to day. It kind of helps you see how blessed you are in your own way, and it also sees you what's possible, as you go to different parts of the world. And so COVID, I didn't shelter at home. I sheltered in different Airbnbs. So I did 20 cities in 2020. The year 2020, I went to 20 different cities. While everybody else was sheltering at home, I would in an Airbnb, jump on a plane, go to that place, do whatever. I did 34 flights that year, 34 flights in 1 year. And after that, I was like, I'm good. I went all around the US because, obviously you couldn't leave the country at the time. I went all around the US. I was going different places, whatever. I saw all the big monuments and all the big, things. And I was like, I'm good. And one of my clients told me, she said, Oracle, you should move to Bali. You would love Bali. And I said, oh, I think I'll move to Bali then. But Bali didn't open up in time. Thailand opened up first. So the first country to open was Thailand. And so as soon as Thailand opened, I got on a plane, I flew to Thailand, and I bought a one-way ticket. I sold everything. I put everything up for sale. Anything you can get, you take it, you know. And I went there with about $2,500 in my pocket, and I moved to a whole foreign country with 2,500 bucks. That's it. And I said, God, here I am, Lord, send me, because I wasn't,
Wow.
I didn't know nobody in Thailand. I knew nothing. And then
I'm
from
pretty sure you
there,
didn't come from Alabama. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
you
yeah.
found it in Thailand.
Yeah, and so from Thailand, I moved to Philippines. I spent a year and a half in Thailand, 6 months in the Philippines, and now I've been over a year and a half here in Malaysia. And I stumbled upon this city on a cruise, went on a cruise in Asia, around Asia, and then I found this city, and I was like, "This is nice! Wow, this is," and it's a really, really Kuala Lumpur. It's a really, really nice city, and I have a two-bedroom, two-bath condo for like 360 bucks.
Wow. Wow.
The cost of living is amazing.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, I love that story. So lastly, Quentin, where can my listeners purchase your book or sign up for your sessions?
I would say if you're on social media, you can go to me on Instagram at the Master Oracle on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook at Quenton Stroud Master Oracle and have Master Oracle in parentheses. Quenton Stroud Master Oracle, and it's spelled just like that here on the show. Quenton Stroud Master Oracle. And of course I can send you the links and everything if they want to connect with me that way. Oh, and you can also go to my website, Ask the Oracle Now. AskTheOracleNow.com. AskTheOracleNow.com.
There you have it. Quentin Stroud. Man, thank you so much for being on the show today. Man, I had a blast today. I've learned
This
some
was
stuff
nice.
today.
Very good. Very good. Now, before we close out, if you want me to pull some, give you a quick read, I can give you a quick read to see whatever spirit has to say. Whatever comes up, comes out. It's up to you.
What's up to you?
You want to do it? I got you right here.
All right.
Okay, fantastic. Let me get your date of birth, Reginald.
Date of birth?
Yes.
224.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, you a Pisces.
Yes, sir.
Oh, me too. March 10th.
Okay.
Okay. See, that's how we get along. Okay. Fantastic. Oh, there we go. I just jumped out. Okay, fantastic. So the first thing that comes up here is uh, victory despite obstacles. Victory despite obstacles. It tells me here that no matter what, you are victorious and you're moving ever in that direction. That's something that you kind of knew earlier on, though. It almost kind of feels like you knew you were going to be successful. You knew you were going to expand. You knew kind of how things were going to go. Even though there were obstacles, even though there were challenges, I don't ever feel like you. This is just how it's coming up. It's like you had the faith, like I just believe, I know, and I believe that things are going to work out for me, and I feel very good about that. Even though that there was might have been many obstacles that showed up, the swords represent obstacles here. It does say here that making sure that you have all your ducks in a row when it comes to legal matters, making sure that I'm just gonna throw it out here, making sure that your finances are in order, making sure your legal things are in order. That's going to be really important as you expand, and this is in the present time. As you expand, it's going to be very wise for you to have an attorney or a council of attorneys that's going to really be able to gird you and make sure they're supporting you in your growth. Right. So if that's in corporations, if that's other subsidiary businesses, or you know what I mean, like little offshoot businesses or whatever, making sure that everything is set up the right way, because that's going to be really important for you leveling up. Right. This is going to be really good. You have really good karma. Your karma energy is very high here. So that means that you've helped a lot of people, and that help. Remember, I said my prosperity prospers a million people, and their prosperity prospers me. So you've helped others, and knowing that that also supports you, and from a karmic stance. Um, this is interesting. Spirit is giving me, don't walk away. Don't walk away just yet. And you and I can talk privately on some things too, but don't walk away. Don't feel like you have to end off things in order to grow. Obviously there's some things that you want to, not have to deal with anymore, and that's nice. But don't feel like you need to walk away just yet. Okay. I would say, with some time and with some fortitude, there's a lot of healing and there's a lot of things that can take place. So don't feel like you need to walk away from anything just yet. There's more to come. You're just going to have to trust. trust spirit on that.
Man, that was on point. That was crazy.
Don't.
That was
Yeah.
on point. We could talk off air about that, but that was on point.
Okay. Yeah. Real talk.
That's it. That's it. So there you have it. Quenton, I appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep reaching. You know, you own something huge. It's already huge, but it's only going to keep getting bigger with you, man.
I
And
appreciate that.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Quenton Stroud, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed listening to Real Talk with Reginald D, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.
Oh, and subscribe. Subscribe to this channel because this is good.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.